joining us right now, a voice
Merrill!
that we know well, and we're excited to hear again a lot on WIP with the brand new Eagles season. Merrill Reese. Merrill, how are you?
I am fine. It's great to be here, Joe and you.
So Merrill, what is it like knowing that you're going into the Hall of Fame next week, man?
You know, it's a great feeling. It really is a great feeling. It's a great honor. First of all, the biggest honor is to broadcast each week for the most knowledgeable and passionate football fans in the NFL. That's the great honor. And then when I got the call from Canton and that notified me that I was going into the Hall and winner of the Pete Rozelle Award, it really hit me. I mean, I was very, very emotional because that wasn't anything I ever even thought about. It wasn't even a possibility in my mind. And when I heard it, it really meant so much to me to be included among that list of so many distinguished people in the broadcast field. So I am grateful, but I am, first of all, thrilled that it's part of this city.
Well, it is, Merrill, and you represented the city for so many years, and you've seen so many Eagles teams. And Merrill, do you still get butterflies? Do you still get excited? Like, what's this time of the year like for you as we get to watch them for the first time? Second practice today, first yesterday. Do you still get that excited, super excited feeling when camp begins? When does it start to feel real for you?
You know what? The truth of the matter is I don't get butterflies coming out to camp. It's an air of anticipation that I feel. I love being out here each day, watching the players compete. I'm somebody who enjoys the preseason games. I know most people say, oh, another meaningless preseason game. But I'm here every day, and I watch these young guys vie for roster spots, and then to watch that week in and week out and not have to worry about, for those 3 games, whether the Eagles win or lose, that's the thrill. Now, you talk about the nervousness. I am nervous before every game. I'm more nervous before a preseason game than I am before a Super Bowl. And the reason is I've got a 90-man roster to focus on.
Yeah.
Many of them not known to anybody but their mothers. You get to the Super Bowl, you know everybody on that roster. You've seen not only the Eagles, but you've seen the opponent at least 6 or 7 times minimum on national television. So that's a lot different. But I'm nervous before every game because I've prepared and I feel like I'm going into a final exam. But once Joe McPeak, my producer, cues me and I come on with the game, it all goes away, and I feel as if I'm floating for the next 3.5 hours.
So, Merrill, what's your thought on what they have this year? It's interesting because if you just look at the talent and just look at the names, it looks like one of the best rosters in the NFL and very, very high expectations. Of course, the last time we saw them with a lot of these same players, Merrill, was the end of last season, and they looked like a poor team, right? They lost 6 out of 7, including the playoff team. What's your feeling on this team as they try to come together and get back to where they were a couple years ago?
Well, they were embarrassing, to use one word, against the Giants in Week 17, and they were awful against Tampa Bay in the playoffs, and that was awful. But you know what? There are a lot of things that have changed. Number one, Howie Roseman and the organization brought in 2 new coordinators, Vic Fangio, who's one of the best in the business, and Kellen Moore, who is one of the bright offensive minds in football. So I'm excited about that. Number 2, they looked at where they were lacking, and they went to the secondary. And those were the 2 biggest needs, and they bring in Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. So I think, and plus, they bring back C.J. Johnson. They have other people that have come in, like Devin White. I'm anxious to see Devin White because he was great in his first years with Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there that can make this team much better than last year. But there are things, Hugh and Joe, that you have to see. Now, you look at these guys. You look at Jalen Carter. You look at Jordan Dean on the practice field, and you say, you know what? These are talented guys. These guys can be forces. But I don't want to see them look like building records in September and October. I want to know that they're in the kind of shape that can carry them right through the season, and they're going to be just as effective late as they are early, because this is a marathon of a sport.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm curious, Merrill. How do you think Saquon Barkley's contributions are going to be with this team? I know we're not a running team, but if you had to put a number on how many carries you think he would get per game, what do you think that number would be?
Well, I think the number in their mind is going to be someplace between 20 and 30. That's going into it. And I think he's also the 3 down back that they haven't had. I mean, you've had other great backs, but you've brought in blocking help or receiving help on third downs. So he's a three-down back, and I think he's a great back. I've been a big fan of his ever since I watched him play for the Nittany Lions. However, Buddy Ryan, not to go into ancient history, but Buddy Ryan used to have an expression that durability is as important as ability. And if you look at Saquon Barkley as a Giant, there were injury problems, and he did miss quite a few games. If Saquon Barkley can remain healthy, he's going to be a huge contributor.
Merrill Reese with us here as we're live at Eagles training camp. Merrill, Jaylen Hurts has been one of your favorites from the beginning.
He is.
And he's turned out to be a heck of a draft pick, heck of a player for the Eagles. Last year, though, was not his best, right? It was not what it was 2 years ago. Where do you think Jaylen is now in his career? Because this feels like a crossroads moment, Merrill, for me. I think we've all realized he's a good player, right? He's a good quarterback. If he has a great season, I think we'll look at last year, 2023, and say that was an outlier. That was a weird year. He is great. If he has an okay season or only a good season, we'll probably look at 2022 when he was an MVP candidate as an outlier. Merrill, what do you think? Where do you think Jaylen is at this stage of his career as he kind of goes from young to now more towards his prime?
I think he's a great player. I really do. I blame a lot of last year on what Nick Sirianni even said became a stale offense. It was a very predictable offense. Plus, they couldn't pick up the blitz, and they're working on that. Blitz pickup, that's a key thing that they have to improve upon. I think he was behind the eight ball last year, and a lot of it wasn't his fault.
Well, and I think the blitz stuff was immense. I mean, down the stretch last year, remember that playoff game against Tampa, we knew the whole week they were going to blitz the Eagles, and the Eagles had no answers for it. It was frustrating, and now we get to see Kellen Moore here. Merrill Reese is with us live in our camp comeback RV driven by Hitch RV as we get set for the season Eagles practice day. Merrill, what are your thoughts on the new kickoff rule? I mean, I'm excited to see this. They were practicing in Louisville today. It's become a play. I was just saying to you a few minutes ago that you almost could turn the TV off or get up and get a drink or something, right? If someone scores a touchdown, you just know it's going to be a touchback. It feels like now that play could have some excitement again.
It could. But the interesting thing, Joe, is that they changed the kickoff rules originally to eliminate the returns because of the safety factor. So now they're going back into an unusual thing, which I'm not completely sure of until I see it.
We're all going to get to know it together.
We're going to learn it together when we see how it's implemented. So that fits into the category of we'll see.
Merrill, NFL recently has been talking about potentially soon moving to an 18-game schedule. You've seen all the iterations of this, from 14 to 16 to 17 the last few years. Do you like the idea? I mean, we all love football, but do you like the idea? Do you think it's good for us as fans and the sport to go to 18 games down the line?
I think it's good for fans. I think it's good for broadcasters because you'll only have 2 preseason games. And as I said, I find them interesting, but they're certainly not exciting. So you're going to have 18 regular season games. I think if I were a player, I wouldn't like it. I think the body can only take so much pounding. And I think once they went from 14 to 16, they were stretching the limit. And then 16 to 17, you're stretching it even more. But once they went to 17, you knew it was only a matter of time until they evened it out with 18. I think it's an awful lot of punishment for people to take. And that's why you go to a camp like this or in any other NFL city and you don't see guys blocking and tackling. I go back 100 years ago to the Vermeil camp where they put on the pads and they belted each other twice a day for 2.5 hours at Lehigh or Westchester or originally out at Widener, where they really hit. And that was, but they could because he had 120 people.
Yeah, you had a lot more bodies
at camp, and he had 14 at one point, 16 regular season games. So I think it's a lot. I think it's great for the fans, but the Players Association, in approving it, they're interested in the money. Money drives everything today.
Definitely.
But as something that I think makes it less safe, I think it does. I think the body takes a lot of pounding in this game.
Merrill, with that, and I know, look, the CBA has changed, the sport has changed. They're not going to have 2-a-days with pads and tackle the ground. But what do you think about how the Eagles and a lot of teams now structure practice and then they don't really play much in the preseason. Do you think they should do more of it? We talk about this all the time. Would it be better if they did a little bit more, maybe a little bit more physicality, maybe a little bit longer on the field? Because it's way different now than it used to be.
Oh, much different. I think you're right in terms of the preseason games. I would like to see a little more use of. I'd like to see Jaylen Hurts get a series or two in 2 of the 3 preseason games, and then put him on the shelf for the last one. I'd like to see the offense have a chance to play a little bit, not expose them, not overexpose them, but just a little bit in the preseason. That's why today the September games look like preseason games used to look.
They really do. I mean, it's almost like a month before anyone remembers how to tackle again.
I mean, that's why it wouldn't.
They're sloppy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we're talking about. It wouldn't surprise me if they got off to a little bit of a slow start, because you're talking about timing with offenses and things like that, defensive guys just trying to learn their run fits and stuff like that. So it wouldn't surprise me.
But you know what? That's basically, Hugh, 32 teams who get off to slow starts.
Yeah, you just don't want to be the one that gets off to the 0-4
Well,
start.
I'm sorry. There's 31 teams and Dan Campbell in Detroit.
Who's biting kneecaps and making them practice all the time.
And I'm not sure that's so good.
No, there's probably a line there that is. All right, Merrill, let's end with this. The Brazil game. Are you looking forward to
You already
going
packed?
down?
You already packed?
Are you packed?
Got
Ready?
your visa?
No?
We'll see.
I think we heard it all there.
What
see.
I'm excited about is the Eagles meeting the Green Bay Packers.
Yes.
I think I'm excited.
Should be a great
about
game.
football.
That's a
That's
fun
a long
game.
trip,
2
too,
contenders.
I wish it were at the link.
Yeah, it's a long trip.
Well, the unfortunate part is it's a Eagles home game, so they lose the home game there. But it certainly should be a fun one and a fun way to kick off the season on that Friday night. Merrill, we appreciate you hopping on. Congratulations again. Enjoy Canton. Well-deserved. And we'll talk to you again very soon, Merrill.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Hugh. You guys do a good job. And
thank you.
When I'm not on the air, I'm listening to you guys.
Well, thank you.
We appreciate that. Merrill Reese, who, again, the recipient of the Pete Rosella Award, our 215-592-9494. That is how you hop in here. A lot to discuss. If you want to get in the Eagles' final hour, expecting a Super Bowl or hoping for one, where do you come down? The Phillies, that was a brutal loss yesterday. I mean, to be up 4-1, to have the bullpen start walking everybody, and then I still don't know what happened there, why Brandon Marsh didn't catch the baseball. Your worry level for a team that's been about 500 for the past 38 games. And we'll go on a blind date with a trade candidate. Dave Dabrowski has about 5 days to figure this thing out. 5 days to get someone or multiple people in here at the trade deadline. All right, 215-592-9494. When we come back, your phone calls and a practice report with Elliott Shore-Parks, how Jaylen looked both throwing and running, and his observations from the first 2 days of practice. That's next. Midday Show, live from Eagles Training Camp, Sports Radio 94 WIP.